Minnesota likes it or not, it seems like Kirill Kaprizov has become the talk of the town. Specifically with him rejecting the massive long-term $16 million per year contract with Minnesota, his future has been in question. But recently we got a big update on Kirill Kaprizov and the NHL teams that are most interested in not just trading for him, but potentially signing him in next year's NHL free agency. So what's the latest on, I guess, the Kirill Kaprizov sweepstakes? Well, we're going to be breaking down all the latest news here, so make sure you guys watch till the end for that, and let's get right into it. Now, as we talked about the last video, that was kind of a combination between Kaprizov rumors and Crosby and Quinn Hughes. We talked about Kaprizov's situation and how a long-term contract doesn't seem to be what Kaprizov wants at this stage. At least, not with the Minnesota Wild, and that raises a few alarm bells, especially for Kaprizov's future. There is still a possibility that Kaprizov and Minnesota come to an agreement, but it's a lot less likely that it's going to be an even 6-year contract. I think 5 is the absolute most Minnesota could hope for, and that's a bit of a bad spot to be in when Minnesota's entire team hinges on this player. When Kaprizov is at the top of his game, he is absolutely undeniable. We haven't quite seen that since 2022, I would say, where he got 108 points in 81 games, but I would say he's at his best, having an argument to be one of the best NHL wingers, right behind guys like Kucherov or like Pastrnak. I think he's in the tier right outside of that. But there is a situation that Minnesota says we aren't able to keep Kaprizov long-term and we don't like what contract we might be getting. There's a situation where Kaprizov could eventually get dealt, or we see him ending up going in free agency. And both of those possibilities suck for Minnesota pretty equally, but I think at this point it's a much bigger possibility than any time before this. Personally, I think most likely Kaprizov still does stay in Minnesota, but if he doesn't, there are a world of possibilities here. Now, when talking about the teams that could potentially be in on Kaprizov, we have to go to this tweet here from NHL Rumor Report, talking about Michael Russo's report, the main beat reporter for the Minnesota Wild via The Athletic. He's broken multiple trades, multiple big stories on Minnesota. If you're looking for Wild information, he is the guy. And we're going to be going through the teams here one by one because I think they're absolutely fascinating. First, you got Michael Russo. He talks about the Kirill Kaprizov interest, saying the New York Rangers are in it, and I know the Hurricanes are going to be a team that's very interested. And then he goes on to say the Blackhawks are the usual suspects, the LA Kings are in the race, and I think he'd love Tampa Bay. So we get 5 teams in that mix: the Rangers, the Hurricanes, the Blackhawks, the LA Kings, and the Tampa Bay Lightning out of nowhere. Now, before we talk about the teams that'll be in on Kaprizov and the detailed looks into them, I did want to mention that I'm restarting the member program here on the channel. There will be a new exclusive member video every other week starting from now. Yesterday, I released a video breaking down the new Caps and Red Wings jerseys for you guys to check out. A huge thank you to all the current members. Their names will be up on the screen now and will be at the end of every single video going forward. If you guys want to become a member to get exclusive videos and some shoutouts in some videos, just click the join button on the channel and you'll be good to go. It helps the channel out a ton. It makes it a lot easier for me to make more videos for you guys. But without further ado, let's get right back into it. Now, let's start with the first team that was mentioned here in the New York Rangers, and this would be absolutely diabolical. Already getting a player like Artemi Panarin, another fantastic left-wing Russian. To get Kirill Kaprizov too would be absolutely insane. I think the Rangers are much more likely, though, to be a team that swoops up and gets him if you were to get into free agency, but trading for Kaprizov mid-season would not even shock me at this point. The Rangers have told us in their moves that they are willing to shake things up. We saw the big Keandre Miller trade this offseason. We saw JT Miller dealt to them midway through last year, so it's absolutely on the table. And when it comes to the cap projections, I don't think the Rangers have to do too much to bring him on. If it were via trade, it would absolutely not end up working, at least as of right now, since they only have $777K in cap space, so they'd have to do some crazy shenanigans if they were to trade him for him at the deadline. But if they were to just sign him in free agency, that's absolutely possible. They have $29.6 million to work with next summer, and even though there are a couple of free agents, I don't think it's a deal breaker. When it comes to the big-time UFAs and guys that need to sign, it's really just Artemi Panarin as the big-time UFA, which I could see a situation where the Rangers just let Artemi Panarin go into free agency and sign Kirill Kaprizov, get the better, younger player, and with the cap space available, it could certainly happen. Really, when you look at the free agent list, the biggest one is Brandon Schneider after Artemi Panarin. He should get a decent raise, probably around $5.56 million or so, and then Scott Morrow, if he has a decent year, could get a couple $1 million upgraded in RFA next season, but that's pretty much it. Heck, with $29.6 million, there's a situation where Panarin maybe takes a bit of a pay cut and they're able to get both him and Kaprizov. We'll see if that's the case, and we'll see if Kaprizov is maybe fine not taking $16 million, maybe taking a bit less than that if he were to go to a team like the New York Rangers, for example, but that's still up in the air right now. Let's say, for argument's sake, that Kaprizov takes $15 million, for example, and he doesn't end up signing with Minnesota there. That would take a pretty big amount of cap. Then you have Brandon Schneider, who, again, I think would probably be around the $6 million range or so, maybe a bit above that if he has a good year. But let's say after that, then, the Rangers have $21 million then accounted for. You'd only have $8 million left. I think it's kind of a bit of a coin flip whether they're able to keep Panarin afterwards. I think because of that, though, and how the Rangers might want to move going forward, I think they end up letting Panarin go. And again, unless there's a huge pay cut. But Panarin is still a really good player, and I don't think he's going to completely decline after this next season, so I think there is a possibility that they end up just switching Russian left wings and having Kaprizov there, which would certainly be a pretty massive shakeup. On to the second team that Michael Russo mentioned, though, in the Carolina Hurricanes. I'm going to be honest, I'm a lot less convinced that the Kaprizov to Carolina situation is even a possibility for them, mostly just because of who they've already signed already. They just ended up giving a massive contract to Nikolai Ehlers this last offseason, and maybe there's a situation where Carolina goes crazy and trades him next offseason to get Kaprizov, but this is also the NHL, and those things just don't happen. But you look at league-wide projected space for the 2027 offseason, and the Carolina Hurricanes have the least in the NHL with $16 million. And obviously, there is ways for the Canes to offload cap and to change that roster a bit, but among every team out there, they're the least likely to actually be able to afford it. The good news, though, is like the Rangers, they don't have many pending free agents. Alexander Nikishin is the biggest one, and he'll likely get a pretty decent pay upgrade, but that's really the most the Canes have to worry about. So in terms of the guys they know will be on the roster, they'll have opportunity and time to offload cap at next year's trade deadline. But that's just the thing, is that we've only been talking about free agency so far, but I do think the Canes are actually a lot more likely to trade for Kaprizov mid-season than the New York Rangers are, for example. Considering Kaprizov makes $9 million in cap hit, the Canes have actually $10 million in projected cap space, so they still have quite a bit of room for this current season, which, even though they've opened up quite a bit of cap space for trade deadline opportunities, I don't know if they were expecting a Kirill Kaprizov to walk to the table. With almost $10 million more than the Rangers have in projected cap space during this season, the Canes might be one of those teams, and they've done it, trying to go after Mikko Rantanen, trading for a big-time forward midway through the season. Hopefully, if they do that, it works a bit better than Mikko did. On to the third team mentioned, and one that has been really in conversations around Kaprizov for a long time now, weirdly, in the Chicago Blackhawks. This is a team that, especially if Kaprizov is available in the open market, will be the team I think that offers the most to him. Trade-wise, I just don't really see it, especially for Minnesota. I don't think there's much of an opportunity for them to actually trade him to Chicago, but I do think free agency-wise, that's what makes a lot more sense to me. They have all the opportunity in the world right now for him. I mean, you look at the left wing side for Chicago right now, and it is rough. I mean, Oliver Moore, I like, and Bertuzzi has its moments, but it's a bit of a team need if you can't tell. Especially, I would say, a top-end one. Oliver Moore is the only one, I think, in the system that could be a true, definitive top 6 left wing. Getting that type of guy in a Kaprizov level. I mean, Connor Bedard goes from zero help to all the help in the world. I mean, I don't even have to tell you that Chicago would have the cap space for him. I mean, they could trade for 2 Kaprizovs right now and still be under the cap, not even considering what they have available in free agency next year. $57 million. So Chicago is flooded with opportunity, flooded with money to spare, and in a lot of ways, they haven't had the opportunity to sign a big-time player like this yet, but I think Kaprizov is just a perfect fit, and it seems like Kaprizov's interest has kind of been there, at least from a little bit of what we've come to know, trade rumor-wise. There was, again, a rumor from, like, Mark Lazarus in 2024 that was speculating about the Blackhawks and Kaprizov having interest in them if he were to go into free agency. That was a year ago, and it could end up paying dividends in 2026. The interesting part, though, about this all is that we don't really know Kaprizov's priorities right now. He declined a $16 million deal every single season for the next 8 years to become easily the highest paid player in NHL history. So if he declines an offer like that from a team like Minnesota, is he really going to accept an offer from a team like Chicago that is still so far away from being a contender? That's kind of my biggest question. If it is all about money, well, I don't really know how much more you can get. I think Chicago could absolutely offer more, and I think there will be the potential of that, but I don't think it's going to be $20 million. I think it would be more so 17 million, 18 million at the absolute max. Even though Chicago is crazy, they're still not one of those teams that is in a position to pay that much. It could be an absolute anchor for your team, especially if Kaprizov has more injury troubles. So in a way, I think Kaprizov's only chance of ending up in Chicago is if it is all about the money, but if it is more about fit, about team scheme, about maybe wanting more of a chance at a Stanley Cup, then obviously Chicago isn't going to fit those parameters. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe it's just a situation that Kaprizov doesn't really want to stay long-term in Minnesota specifically, and if a team is able to give a similar amount anywhere else, especially to a team like Chicago, maybe that ends up playing out differently. We just don't know yet in Kaprizov's case, but I'm sure with how much of a story this is going to be, we're going to find out. I'm just saying this, though. Bedard's career needs this shot in the arm. He needs somebody to work with, so if it's Kaprizov, so be it. Another team that was mentioned was the LA Kings, and I can't even begin to describe, I think, how much the LA Kings desperately need this. It would be exactly what the doctor ordered for them, but I do think they're maybe the most unrealistic out of the 5 teams that were mentioned. Not because I don't think Kaprizov could be awesome in LA and he might not have interest there. I think he would have interest. I just don't really quite see Ken Holland being the type of GM to go after him, especially with some of the moves that LA has already made, putting up so much cap space to try to get guys like Cody Ceci and really solidify that defense already. I think that's more the focus for this Kings team long term, even if I think Kaprizov, again, is exactly what I think LA could use to get over the top. But I think especially the upside and the progression we've seen in a player like Adrian Kempe has kind of made the need for Kaprizov for LA a little bit less so, just because they already have this guy that is so good at goal scoring, so good with his speed and skill set, and how he's been able to dominate and carry his game over year after year. So even though I think it would be awesome, I just don't quite see it. Plus, LA has a ton of players to sign in next year's free agency, including Adrian Kempe, who's making $5.5 million this year and is going to get a hefty raise. Plus, you're going to have players like Brandt Clark, too, that also I think are going to get quite a bit of money. And I just think the opportunity is going to shore up pretty quickly, at least as LA goes further. Maybe a trade deadline opportunity, but also I don't think Minnesota is going to want to trade him anywhere within the same conference or have any opportunity of facing him in the playoffs. Which I think is silly because you're just going to lose him in free agency anyways if that's the case, but hey, I'm not the decision maker there. But the team that I wanted to talk about the most here is the Tampa Bay Lightning, and Michael Russo said that Kaprizov likes Tampa, would like Tampa quite a bit, which makes sense. Tampa is a very desirable place to go, but Tampa as a Kaprizov suitor just... It boggles my mind, but at the same time is maybe a little bit more likely than any of us would think. But that's mostly due to the cap situation and not necessarily the team, because I don't think Tampa needs a Kaprizov whatsoever. I mean, you got in the left wing already Jake Guentzel and Brandon Hagel, and maybe Hagel or something could switch to the right side, but like... the wing is not the position of need here for Tampa Bay. You got Kucherov, Guentzel, Hagel, Bjorkstrand, I mean, Connor Geeky coming up. I think they'll be fine. I guess Bjorkstrand will end up being a UFA after next year, so I guess there's that, but I mean, Kaprizov being in there, I try to get somebody on defense, for goodness sakes. Jeez. Now, team-wise, even though I might not think it's the greatest fit in the world, cap space-wise, they can certainly make it happen. In terms of the big free agents next year, it'll be Ryan McDonagh and Oliver Bjorkstrand, and even though McDonagh would be a pretty big loss for them, I could pretty easily see both of those guys being walked into free agency, especially if a Kaprizov were to come to the table. But you have $27.7 million to work with next offseason, which isn't a gargantuan amount of money, but it's certainly enough to bring Kaprizov, I would imagine, to a lower AAV than other teams would be able to offer. And if he does have interest in Tampa Bay, if he wants to go there, it's going to bring that contract down, which means Tampa's going to have even more room to bring on other players and potentially keep a Ryan McDonagh if they really wanted to. So I think the option is certainly there. I just think in terms of the team need, it would be just bringing more fire to the fire. I mean, Tampa Bay is already stacked in that department. So, I mean, why not, I guess? But at the same time, leave some wingers for the rest of us. Jeez. I mean, dude, if Ryan McDonagh ends up leaving in free agency, they're going to have Emil Lilleberg as their second pair lefty. I just don't... This is Tampa we're talking about, though, so maybe it's a possibility. I don't know. No matter what, I just think this would be easily the funniest timeline. I mean, Vegas obviously would be up there, but I think Tampa Bay having Kaprizov and Kucherov on the same line, potentially? Are you kidding me? I don't know how my voice has gotten so high, but this rumor is making me get up there. Overall, do I think Tampa Bay is the most likely destination? Absolutely not, but I kind of want to see it. I kind of want to see it, not just for the potential of the Kucherov-Kaprizov line, but just to see how much fuming there would be on hockey Twitter. It would be unbelievable. But hey, man, the cap is going up, which means a team like Tampa Bay is somehow going to get the opportunity to potentially get Kaprizov if they really wanted to. Certainly not this year unless they traded that whole entire roster away in the deadline. But free agency-wise, watch out for the Tampa Bay Lightning, I guess. But that is my breakdown on the Kirill Kaprizov situation. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Let me know your thoughts on this whole weird, wacky world we're living in where Kaprizov could be going to Tampa Bay. Let me know what you think about him going to the Rangers, the Canes, the Kings, the Chicago Blackhawks. All your thoughts down below on that and where you think he'll ultimately end up going. Do you think he'll stay with Minnesota? Do you think he'll get traded? Do you think he'll go into free agency? Let me know your thoughts down below. Of course, should have been with all hockey fans you guys know online. And click on this card for all of my training room content right in one playlist. And I will see you guys in the next one. Make sure you have a fantastic hockey day. And goodbye.